Buyer 101-4, the consultation. We're talking about the motivation of buyers, their top 5 must-haves, and a few things about financing that are important to talk about in the initial consultation. So you get a buyer lead. You maybe worked with 8x6. Maybe it only took a couple of times to connect with them before they were ready to come meet you, maybe start seeing some houses. But you want to have some consultation with them. Let's take a look at this. Consult, motivation, 5 must-haves, and financing. So it's vital to have a great consultation with your buyer clients for at least 3 reasons. The first and most important reason is so you can understand their motivation. It is huge. It is very, very important. Are they wanting to fire the landlord and take the plunge as first-time buyers? Are they changing jobs and need to move closer to work? Are they changing jobs and now have more money, so they want to upgrade their situation? Do they spend too much time in the car and not enough time with their kids driving to work? Are they getting married, getting divorced, new kid on the way? Kids are all grown up and gone. There are lots of possible answers to the questions about why they're interested in buying a home at this time. But the better you understand their motivation, the better you can serve them, the faster you can help them. You need to know the answers so you can help them reach their goal. Sometimes that means help them stay on track. So take a second to look at this video I put together, just a little bit about maybe how to go about this. Okay, so buyer 101-4, the consultation. You're talking about motivation, their top 5 must-haves, and about financing. So let's talk motivation. When you sit with people and you ask them, tell me what your goal is. What are your expectations and your goals? What are you trying to achieve? So you're not really just asking them directly, so what's your motivation here? See, because people don't think in terms of that. But when they start telling you, well, my goal is to get a house, okay, but why now? Why are you trying to get a house now? And that's where you'll start getting into their motivation. Well, my kids have started school, and I'm driving 45 minutes each way. I'm an hour and a half in a car while their after-school activities are happening. I'm in a car while they're growing up, and I'm missing it. Okay, now we're getting the motivation, right? Or, look, I'm frustrated. I can't take it anymore. These landlords, I want to fire the landlord and own my own home. I'm tired of hiding the fact that I have 2 dogs. I want to paint the colors I like. Okay, great. So they're getting to the point where they're tired of being renters, right? Or maybe they just had a second or third kid and the house is a lot smaller than it was when they bought it. Well, the point is, you're starting to understand their motivation. And that's going to be really key, because at some point, every process of finding a good home and going through there's going to be some frustration involved. And you'll want to be able to hearken back and recall, kind of, hit that chorus of motivation, get the refrain going about why, it's worth it. Yeah. So, this house actually hits your point there about being so much. It's only 10 minutes from work, so it's going to allow you to be throwing a ball in the backyard or going to the school play instead of white-knuckled, teeth-grinding traffic. So this is going to really help you achieve your goal. Now see why motivation matters. But the way you really get to motivation is deeper than just, maybe you might have heard me tell this story before about the person who was saying they really wanted a big backyard. And they said, okay, well, what's important about a big backyard? Well, I like to garden. Oh, good. What's important about gardening to you? Well, my grandfather taught me to garden. And when I was just, 4 and 5 years old, my fondest memories were digging in the garden with my grandfather and learning how to grow tomatoes and cucumbers and the like. And well, my daughter is expecting their second in the spring, and I want to be able to have the 3-year-old with me while she's trying to take care of the baby. Ah, now we understand. That's real motivation, right? That's really important about a big backyard. But I had a client who was very much like that one I mentioned about, spending time in the car instead of with the kids. And they were a bit of a challenge personality-wise and kind of hard to please. And I had to come back more than once and remind them of their motivation to purchase a new home closer to work so that they could be with their kids, so that he, in this case, could be with his kids instead of in the car. And, it helped me kind of hold his feet to the fire, or their feet to the fire a little bit, because I got a little nitpicky and a little hard to please. But in the end, it really was important. So understand their motivation. Ask the next question. Find out what's really the reason. And people, it can be a lot of different reasons, but people deep in their heart understand why they're going through this process of trying to buy a house, and it'll serve you well to help uncover that and discover that and be able to remind them of that when needed. Okay, go. So motivation matters. In fact, I would say motivation matters the most. But also in that consultation, it helps to look at beyond the motivation. A second reason for a great consultation with your buyer clients is so you can ask them about their top 5 must-haves. Top 5 must-haves in a new home. This serves at least a couple of purposes. You get to hear what they currently think are the most important things in a house. And I say currently because sometimes they shift a bit over time. Be prepared for that. And this will help you zero in on your searches so you don't waste a lot of time showing them the wrong things. And that's frustrating for everyone. If you understand, though, what their top 5 must-haves are, then you can, from day one, start putting houses in front of them that make sense for them. And it helps you be able to keep them focused later when they are getting kind of unrealistic expectations or just kind of getting off track. And so you'll use this simple technique over and over for years to come. So get good at it. This is one of these basics, right? This buyer consult, this question of motivation, the top 5, and a little bit about financing. When you sit with them for a consult, ask them what their top 5 must-haves are in a home and write them down in front of them as they talk. So you're sitting there with a pencil and paper, right? And they're saying, and you ask them, so I understand some more about your motivation now. I'd like to ask you this very just direct question. What are your top 5 must-haves in a home? And you're sitting there with the pencil and paper. You got your pencil looking at them. A little smile on your face. What are your top 5 must-haves in a home? And they go, well, what do you mean? Well, what are the top 5 most important things about your next home? And you're sitting there with a pencil and paper expecting them to give you the answer, see? So they have to start thinking about it. They can't just give you, I don't know, we'll know it when we see it. Oh, gee. The problem is I don't know it. I'm trying to get where I can know it so I can help you. Anyway, so if they give you a vague answer, and they will, like it must have a nice kitchen, ask the next question. Well, what's a nice kitchen to you? Because you need to get like top 5 practical things that you can understand. When they list like 9 must-haves, make them prioritize the top 5 must-haves. Tell them, there's no such thing as 100% house, but you can get your top must-haves. And I want to know what they are. So out of this list of 9, what are the top 5 must-haves on this list? Now refer to their top 5 must-have list often, right? When you talk to them about the listings you're going to show them, tell them how they have their top 5 must-haves. and just kind of keep that refrain going about hitting exactly what they told you they wanted. When they add something to the list after viewing a couple of homes, and they might, ask them which of the top five does that replace going forward. See, that'll help hold their feet to the fire a little as you go. Otherwise, there can be what I call a creep in the scope of work, right? That ultimately makes it very hard for them to be happy. And the goal here is to make them happy and get them what they said they wanted. And now it might change. It might change. It very often does. But help them understand that they're making a change, and you're going to get them what they now are telling you they say they want. So take a quick look at this video on this subject here, just a couple of minutes here about that top five consult. Okay, so we're also talking about the top five must-haves in a house. When you're sitting and having a consult, have a little paper and pencil and write down these top five must-haves. And you're going to ask them, so what are the top five must-haves in a home? It'll help me search and help make sure I'm showing you things you really want to see. And they're going to tell you, well, most of them are going to stutter and stammer a little bit. They haven't really thought about it quite so directly and almost, I would say, practically. They have some sort of romantic vision of the right house, but they don't really have a practical understanding of that necessarily. So, but they'll say things to you, well, it has to have a nice kitchen. And great. What's a nice kitchen to you? Help me understand. What colors are the cabinets? What are the countertops like? Is it a kitchen that's open to the other parts of the house, or is it a kitchen that's more apart from the other part of the house? Is it got room to sit and eat in the kitchen? You see the point? Get them to really understand, does it have lazy Susans, or does it have pots and pans hanging on from the ceiling or above the stove? What's a nice kitchen to you? And get them to really articulate. So they say a big backyard. Okay, big like 50 feet wide and 100 feet deep big, or like an acre big? So, help them get real specific in what makes their top five must-have list. And it may be how far it is from work, right? It may be certainly what price point, and the number of bathrooms and bedrooms. Does every bedroom need its own bathroom, or can we have 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom? Or, how does this? What are the top 5 must-haves in very practical language? And then, somebody though will say, well, it has to have all of these, 12 things. Okay, great. So you list all 12 of them and say, okay, but my question is, what are the top 5 must-haves? As we prioritize the list here, what are the absolutely essential top 5 must-haves? Because there's no such thing as a 100% house. There just isn't. That doesn't exist. That's a fairy tale, not reality. And so I'm just trying to find, but you can have the most important things, the top things, your highest priorities. We want to make sure you get 100% of those. So what are they? And then you ask them to really prioritize. And then, by the way, somebody will give you the top 5 must-haves, and you'll ask them questions, you'll interact, you'll get them on paper, and then they'll be driving, you'll go see some houses, and it'll have all 5 of their top 5, but then they go, but it doesn't have an attached garage. I want an attached garage. Oh, see, because that wasn't, all right, you want attached. Which of your top 5 are coming off the list if it has to have an attached garage? And basically, you're trying to give them a reality check at that point and kind of hold their feet to the fire, because there will be what, like a creep, of the scope of work, if you will. But if you have that top 5 list and refer to it often, say, hey, I took a look at some homes on the MLS that really, I think, hit your top 5 must-haves, and I'd love to show them to you this Saturday if you have time. Say around 10 or 11, or is the afternoon better? I have, but the point is, refer to the top 5 list more than once so that they know You're really after what it is they told you they were after. Okay, go get them. So again, that consultation matters. Having a great conversations with your buyers so that you know what they expect and you help set some expectations for them as well. And one of the areas we're setting expectations is in financing, right? The third reason you need to have a great buyer consult is to understand their finance situation. If they're a cash buyer, collect a proof of funds that has their name, the institution's name or logo, a balance available, and is less than 30 days old. Now, some market accounts, only issue statements once a quarter, and that can be acceptable sometimes when it's more than 30 days old. But the point is, they can't show you how much money they had last year. It has to do with how much money they have now to put towards buying a house, right? If they're financing, ask them if they have a pre-approval letter from a lender yet. If they don't have a lender, if they don't have a lender yet, recommend 2 or 3 that you know, like, and trust for them to talk to right away. So part of your homework is get to know a couple of lenders that you are happy with, and that could change over the years. Trust me. Sometimes they come and go, the relationships there. But sometimes you find one that's with you for years, and that's great. But my point is, get them to a lender, get them to some reality checks. So let them know it's vital they know what price points make sense for them, right? That's a way to phrase it. So you don't have to look at them and say, well, you don't look like you can afford a $500,000 house. Yeah, you tell them, you want to make sure that they understand what price point makes sense for them. And sometimes it's not whether or not you can, it's whether or not you should. So it's not just they could buy a $500,000 house, but they'd be more comfortable with a less expensive house in the long run. So, and you don't want to be showing them $400,000 houses when they can only buy a $250,000 house. The ones they can afford will never measure up to the ones they can't afford. So do not jump into showing them expensive houses without them producing a pre-approval letter so you know what they can afford. Now, if they push back about getting a pre-approved, let them know that no seller will look at an offer that doesn't have a pre-approval letter with it, and they don't want to miss out on the one because they weren't prepared. See, that'll help them make sense of it. And if they're still a little obstinate, say, well, it's really important to me that I know we're doing the right things. So please take the time to call one of the, now look, if they won't call a lender, that's a bit of a red flag, all right? And you probably need to spend your time with people who will. Just put it like that. So you also want them to know something about their options when it comes to financing. There's more than one kind of mortgage in the world, but definitely ask this question. Are you or your spouse active duty or veterans of the military? Ask that question and let them know, it could be the spouse, and the spouse could be, of course, the woman, maybe the veteran. So don't get your little narrow mind stereotypes and mess this up. Ask the question: are you or your spouse? Now, have to be married though for it to work. They can't have a partnership or a civil union. Even they have to be married for this to work, because for the spouse to have the benefit. But that VA loan is awesome, and they should look at using that benefit if they're afforded it, for if they've got that benefit for having served or currently serving. It is not a one and done benefit. Some people, even the veterans, don't understand that. They can do it over and over, and they may not know that. So it's an awesome loan. Don't have time to tell you all about it right now, but learn about it. Let them know about FHA loans and contrast them with VA loans and conventional loans. Those are the 3 big kind of categories you'll see. FHA and conventional more than VA, because less people have served, but VA is the 3rd most popular out there. And get a relationship with a lender that can help you in the process of understanding the differences in these categories. In fact, Google a comparison of FHA, VA, conventional mortgages for funsies. You'll find a few charts out there that illustrate the differences. But meet with some lenders and help, and go ahead and ask. So help me understand what mortgage options are out there, and why one person might prefer this to that, and get them talking. Um, so besides FHA, VA, and conventional, there's more things to know about financing, but the vast majority of finance deals will be one of those loans, okay? So you'll want to know about down payments and how they affect mortgage insurance or rates. You'll want to know there are jumbo loans for houses that are higher price points. You'll want to know about new construction loans and sort of the uniquenesses of those, and they are unique. You'll want to know about down payment assistance programs. There's lots to know, but if you can talk a little about conventional versus FHA and the benefits of a VA loan, you're way ahead of the game. So in that buyer consult, ask them some questions about their financing and get them started in a conversation. But you're not the lender, right? Remember, you're not the loan officer. Let them be the expert in financing. I mean, the loan officers. You just need a couple that you know, like, and trust, and you can refer people to. Okay, so Buyer 101-4, the consultation, motivation, top 5 must-haves, and financing. Make sure you've covered at least this much with your people. So that's Buyer 101-4. And I want you to take a little time to do some research on the difference between VA, FHA, and conventional loans. And you'll find posted somewhere a number of charts that kind of line them up. FHA has a smaller down payment usually, but it has a higher mortgage insurance. Conventional, you can get away with a lower down payment, 5%, even 3%, but the mortgage insurance is there. If you get to the 20% down payment, you don't have mortgage insurance. If it's an investment property, though, there's probably going to need to be a 25% down payment. So there's a lot to know about this stuff, detail-wise. You don't have to know it all, just a little bit, and then get them passed off to the people whose job it is to know a lot about it, okay? All right, go get them.